We are on. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody out there at Facebook land. How the heck are you? How is the week that was? Hope you've had a great weekend. We're doing okay on this end. I'm going live on my very first podcast, so it's going to be an exciting night. I can't see any comments. Comments will not be published. So if I don't see your comments, be patient. I will come back to them. I might try to see if I can see them on my Facebook or something like that on my phone. However, it's not coming through. So be patient with me, everybody. I'm going to do this first interview. For some reason, the comments aren't coming up from you guys, but please put as many comments as you want up, and I will come back to your comments at a later date. Your comments and all of your questions. So tonight we have an exciting night. First one for me. There's a little delay. Apparently, I've been told there's a little delay.
Yeah. So when you talk, that you're not going to instantly see stuff. It'll come up.
Wow. Okay. My producers just come to me and said there's a little delay, and I might not see the comments straight away, but. There is a thing here that's told me that I'm not going to see my comments. So unfortunately, that's the way it is. How was the week that was in your world? Let's what have we got here? We got a few gunshots coming at us. Hey, there you go. What else we got? Awesome! I'm having an awesome week. It's been a busy week. We've had our CEO up from Melbourne, so it's been great to have him in and around the place for a little while. And let's leave it a little while. What's happening in your world? There's my live there. There's going to be some. Hopefully, there's come on. Sarah Thompson said hi. I should be able to see that. How about that? Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. No, that's not the way I want to go. Close that. There it is. Comment there. Okay, I might be okay. So if somebody else wants to send me a comment, I'll see if I can see it down here. Can't make it any bigger, but that's it. So special evening tonight. My very first podcast, and we've got a Vietnam War veteran tonight. Now he's just written his book, Vietnam War Horse. Okay, the Richard Gay, the Memoirs of a Huey Pilot. Okay, so a Huey Pilot's memoirs. Let me get that correct. Okay, I'm about to bring Richard in. We're gonna have some questions and some answers, and it's going to be a fun evening if I don't stuff it up. Before we get to Richard, drink of the evening tonight is the good old Monkey Shoulder. I'll get this right in a minute. Monkey Shoulder whiskey. Hope you're all going to brew. It's Friday evening, so if you're not doing that, get away from the football for half an hour or 20 minutes, and we'll get into this. So let me bring Richard into the scene. There he is. Good evening, Richard. Thanks for joining Scatter Live tonight, mate. Great to have you on board, mate. How are you? How was the week that was in your world, buddy?
Oh, good. I finished actually writing the manuscript for my second book last week, so starting a lot of editing for this one. But it's all going to be a matter of suck it and see. So it's a while to go before I can launch the second book. But the first one has been a bestseller on Amazon for 6 months plus. Yeah. So you've got hardback, paperback, Audible, everything. It's all there. And Kindle is a big one.
Kindle too. Okay, perfect. I know for a fact that it's on Spotify, and you narrate it on Spotify, correct?
Yep, that's correct. Spotify for audiobook. Every place that has an audiobook outlet has it. 38 different ones I put it with over Findaway Voices. Yeah.
Okay. Before I get into the questions that I've got written down here, I'm going to ask you a question. How long did it take you to write this first book, Richard?
It took about 16 months of learning as well as writing. I mean, the writing part was actually turned out to be the easiest part. It's the editing and the formatting, the photographs, the captions that all have to be laid out, and it's really, honest to goodness, it's a science. No wonder it's not something everybody would take on. I can tell you that.
Okay. Look, mate. Look, hats off to you. I know. I know there's a lot of questions we're probably going to go backwards and forwards over over a heck of a lot of these things. But let me first start with thank you for your service, sir.
Oh,
It's people like you that allow us to live the life that we live today. So yeah, thank you for your service. And anybody else out there who's served in any form of military service, thank you for your service. I really believe that you guys need to be really looked after because of what you've gone through for us. Now, I do have a tattoo on my leg, which is the Anzac tattoo, which is lest we forget, and I have that on my leg. So I'm a big fan for Anzac Day. We do the Dawn March every year, so it's been great. So look, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump straight into. Actually, I'm not going to jump into some questions first. I'm going to ask you, like, what brought you to Australia?
oh God. Um, I'll give you the short version. I was at a place called Benoit in Three Corps, only about a 20-minute flight from Saigon, um, from 19 in 69 and 70. And during that time, I met an Australian civilian nurse. Australia had a teaching hospital at Benoit, and I met her very briefly at a barbecue. And
Sure.
then I went back again in 1972, and you wouldn't believe it, but she was at that very same training hospital again when I wound up in Benoit just before they signed the peace agreement, and met her at a barbecue again, and it just went from there.
Wow.
Before Gough Whitlam pulled all the troops out, we got to know each other, and I proposed to her, and long story short, I waited 9 months trying to get the Cobra School, which seemed to be everybody was trying to kick the door in. I didn't get one, so I quit the U.S. military. I was at Fort Hood, no, Fort Hood, Texas, Chief Warrant Officer 2. Uh, I call it Army logic. I was in a cavalry unit, so we had 40 Cobras and 80 Scouts and one Huey, one single one behind me there.
Well,
The
yep,
And so
yep.
they made me the Huey instructor pilot, and I was the only guy that had fired the TOW missile in combat as an experiment, killing tanks. So they made me a Huey instructor pilot, and
Wow.
they were the guys that were shooting TOW missiles. So I left.
Holy doodle.
I call
Wow.
that logic.
Wow.
So I quit.
That that's incredible.
And
That's incredible.
it
I've
made
got a
no
comment
sense
here
to me.
from I've got a comment from John Harris. So John Harris is a mate of mine. We call him Al. Al Harris. Al Harris has said, "G'day to the both of you. G'day to Al Harris. G'day, mate. Hope you're
Lay out.
glad that you joined in tonight, mate. Great to have you on board." Richard, look, what inspired you to become a Huey pilot, and how did you end up flying a Huey in Vietnam, mate?
The thing that inspired me to become a Huey pilot was the fact that while I was I went out of high school and into university. So I was exempt from the draft there. And in the second year of my university, I joined the U.S. Navy Aviation Reserve Officer Candidate program, because all I ever lived for my whole life was to fly off the deck of a carrier. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
But then
wow.
uh, at the just before the beginning of the third year of uni, my old band rang me up and said, "Look, our drummer's quit. Can you come back?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Hung up the phone, and walked away from everything. I found out when I was 68 that I was ADHD. You think the consequences, you just go do it, you know. And so I lost. 9 months later, I got my draft report for your draft physical. Well, when you reported and passed your draft physical, you probably had 3 to 4 weeks before you were congratulated on being selected for service to your country, and they put you where they want you. But I found out, as a matter of fact, if you joined, you got any school you wanted. So I went. I went through the three different Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. You couldn't fly without a college degree. So then I went to the Army and I said, "Do you have a program where I can fly without a university degree?" And he said, "Have you got a high school diploma?" I said, "I do, yeah." He said, "Would you like to fly helicopters?" I said, "What?" I don't think I'd been within 10 miles of a helicopter. I said, absolutely. So he sat me down. I took a 2-hour test and he said, are you sure you want to do this? I said, where do I sign? So I went straight into Warrant Officer flight training.
Wow.
That was a 9-month program. Then 30 days leave after that. And then he told me right then and there, he said, when you finish your training, you will go to Vietnam. I said, okay, fine. It's where everybody else is going. So it didn't bother me. And off I went. And that's how I wound up in Vietnam and flying Hueys. It was a matter of choice, luckily.
So before going to Vietnam, I'm just off script a little bit here. What was your thoughts of the conflict in Vietnam prior to you sort of going there, mate? Was it
Oh,
aspiration? Was it enthusiasm? Was it I just want to defend my country? What was going on in your mind?
well, it was easy. I had grown up in a military family, moving once every 2 years. When I was 4, we went to Bermuda, 6 back to Biloxi, and then we stayed there for a while. Then when I was 10, we were in Fairbanks, Alaska. When I was 12, we were at Ajo, Arizona. And 14, we went to, Tyndall Air Force Base. I knew the military system backward. My stepdad brought me up, Neil Nielsen, and my second book will be dedicated to him. And I loved it. I loved everything. So when I got into uni, um, I could not be against the war, really, or the guys serving for that matter. It was very open minded. I thought, well, and what we were fed in the US was all you need to go in the service because it's going to stop communism and there won't be any dominoes falling. The domino theory was Vietnam falls, Thailand falls, Laos falls, Cambodia falls, and then China is already there, and that would make the whole of Southeast Asia communist. And I believed in people voting. I didn't believe in communism or what Trump's
Yeah,
doing
right.
with the authoritarian government. So I knew I'd wind up going at some stage, but I
Yeah,
was already signed up to go. If you think about it, while I was in uni, anyway.
yeah, right. Well, I guess just in your answer to that little dialogue there was, I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't realise that the communist side of things, they just thought that it was a Vietnam War and nobody should have been there. But you get to know what was going on in the background, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who's going to listen tonight that really didn't understand
Uh,
that that conflict. If that fell, that fell, that fell, that fell, and how that would have fallen into the hands of the Communist Party, and
mm.
and how that would have, I guess, impacted on today's world, if that makes sense.
You're right, and I've been told they don't even teach Vietnam War happened in Australia at school. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's one person's version to me. A
Well, I've
student.
been out of school for 1,000 years, mate, so I can't verify that.
You what? Sorry.
I've been out of school for about 1,000 years,
Oh
so I
yeah.
can't worry
Well, that's
about
why I had to ask a young one. But
that.
the background quickly was the fact that um, actually, oh God, how far back you want to go? It's a 1,000-year war, they call it. Anyway, the U.S. had finagled the upper echelon to get President Thieu in, who was a Catholic, because Vietnam was basically a Buddhist nation, but the other guy was leaning toward the communists. So they had virtually rigged it. I don't know how, don't ask me. But anyway, President Thieu got in, a Catholic. The Buddhists hated him. But by the same token, that was the way it was. But the communists then, the Viet Cong, the Viet Minh, they were called in country, but the Vietnamese Communist Party attacked. They revolted, and they wanted the South Vietnam to be one nation, just like North Korea and South Korea. They wanted
Sure.
to have one nation, but they attacked not as North Korea did and start from the north and come down. They were already there, so they began attacking infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. The country was beginning to crumble, and the United States got in the middle of it.
Yeah, wow.
And there was Thailand was there, America was there, South Korea was there, Australia was there. Um, so it wasn't just an American war as they like to
Yeah,
paint it.
gotcha.
We
Yeah,
were there in mass numbers and the very
yeah,
largest contributor, I assure you. But
sure.
as it were, That's how America became involved. And it was in 64 that that happened. It was also 64 or 5 that Australia started sending in their Australian, the ATTV people as training people and
Yeah, right.
surmising the situation. And then the Aussies went in 1966. And we had been there not much longer, not much earlier actually than they were. When the Marines were sent over, and from
Sure.
there it evolved to a war where there were 1.2 million Americans having gone through the war,
My
and
goodness.
America lost 58,800 killed in Vietnam.
Wow. Yeah, it just blows my mind to just. I mean, you hear a lot, you see movies, you see all of the hype and the Hollywood spin on it,
Yeah.
but you don't really know. So look, let's get back into a question I've got here. Is what was the training like before you were deployed to Vietnam, and how did you prepare for the reality of combat flying?
Okay, if you want to look at the flying side, we started out at a place called Fort Walters, Texas, and we learned it was extremely efficient by 1968. They were graduating 140 pilots a week, fully trained up with 200, virtually 200 and something hours. But the point was, we had fantastic training. As we were organized, it was half a day uh, training and in classroom training, and half a day flight. Then the next week it would be half a day flight, half a day classroom. So you were getting your theory, and at the same time you were getting your practical. And they had all of the instructor pilots were ex-Vietnam veterans, extremely good at what they did, extremely safe, extremely knowledgeable people. We were so blessed to have instructor pilots like that. And once you learn to hover the machine, as in anytime, anywhere, then you knew how to fly a helicopter, because flying it like an airplane, turn right, turn left, pull up a nose, you climb, push down, you descend. That's easy. But hovering a helicopter, when you're going up, down, left, right, round and round at the same time, takes quite a bit of coordination. And they gave you 14 hours to do that. I got mine in 15. They were going to kick me out, and I finally got a new instructor
Oh,
pilot
really?
first check ride. I was
Yeah.
going to,
Wow.
and then they sent you after 6 months. You were sent across to Fort Rucker, Alabama, for your instrument training to learn how to fly in cloud without reference to the horizon. So you did that, and then the last 4 weeks were spent in Hueys, and in the Hueys you learned formation flight. Uh, we did. We worked with the Ranger School up in Georgia, which was only like a 40-minute flight from where we were stationed, and we pick up and insert Rangers. And oh god, it was fun. There were machine guns firing everywhere, artillery simulators booming all over the place. They throw them right in the middle of the flight, so it,
Yeah,
it, it
wow.
sounded real. And it was, to a guy that was ADD like me, I I'd have paid him to do that. I swear to God, I would have paid him money.
So,
It was
so,
so
so correct
exciting.
me. So you kind of simulated a real life war scenario where you had to fly in, land, pick people up, drop people off, get up, get out of there, turn left, turn right, up, down.
Yeah, yeah. When we got them out, everybody was screaming, "Get in, get in, get in!" When we hit the ground, "Get out, get out, get out!" It was
So
like we could be out in 10
in that
seconds.
in that type of helicopter, pardon me, as a pilot, what was the guns they had on that ship? Was that? Correct me if I'm wrong. So this was the helicopter they flew in first to clear everything and keep everybody safe. Is that correct?
No,
Big
what we
guns
did
on
was,
it.
yeah, the tactics for an insertion involved the gunships first, and before we got there, they would hit the landing zone, the proposed landing zone, for like half an hour with artillery, big guns, and then we would arrive, and let's just take a scenario where I was first platoon of an assault helicopter company. We had 2 or 3 gunships with us, depending on what we expected on the other end. They would fly ahead of us by about 3 or 4 minutes. After that, so while we're inbound, about 2 miles out, you can hear them on the radio. Red leg Artie, check fire, check fire, check fire. So that means, Roger, don't shoot. Cease fire, cease fire.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could see the artillery stop, land, because that's where you were going to land. And then the gunships would dive ahead, and they would lay suppressive fire down both edges of the LZ. They would have miniguns at firing, two of them firing at 2,000 shots a minute. That's 200 bullets
Holy
a
shit.
second going in up one side, and the rocket ship on the other side putting in massive rockets along the edge, so that by the time they finished about two of those runs, then bang, we'd hit the ground, and we'd get the ground, and at the instant our skids would touch down, we would come to a stop, and the boys in the back, the door gunner and crew chief, would just be screaming, get out," because you didn't want any confusion as to what's to happen next. And they'd all dive out both sides of the aircraft. If they were taking fire, they'd just go down flat and return fire. And then by then we were on the way out after about no more than 15, 20 seconds we'd be going, because once we slowed below 40 knots of airspeed and we'd be 200 feet off the ground, we were a sitting duck all the way
Yeah.
down to a stop. And then when you took off, again, you had to gain your altitude and airspeed. So that envelope of about probably a minute, you were anybody's. And the bullets would just come in thick and fast, and you just had to concentrate on what you were doing. You didn't look around, you didn't think what if, you just dealt with what was in front of you. If you lost your windscreen, that's fine, you can go get another one. If there's 3 or 4 holes in it, that's fine, nobody got hit. If your seat got hit, it got hit, you didn't. So that's the way your mind worked while you were in there. And you could hear the M60s just rattling your bones when both of them were firing 800 rounds a minute, getting out at whatever they can see. It's all muzzle flashes. When you see muzzle flashes, that's what you aim at, because that's where the end of the rifle was shooting at you.
Okay.
And that's it. You're in and you're out.
Holy shit.
Gunship.
So how many people would you carry on board on a Huey in a typical flight?
Okay, there were 3 models of Hueys involved as the war went for 10 years. So the technology increased. At the end, in 1969, we had UH-1H. Huey was a 1,200 shaft horsepower motor, and you could carry 10 fully kitted out troops with all the ammo and their weapons and their rations and stuff. 10. That was a good load.
What was I'm just like trying to get my head around that you're in control of a joystick and you just cruising around and with somebody with a surface to air missiles and somebody firing like AK-47. Would that be correct?
Yeah, there were no surface to air missiles at that stage. My second tour, we did have surface to air missiles, and we had to be aware of that. But usually it was AK-47s or 50 cals or 51 cals firing at us. So they all had their automatic weapons, and they were very well kitted out. AK-47 is absolutely friggin' dangerous. It's a mother of a weapon. It's fantastic for what it's built for, and that's what they use.
A 50 cal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you get hit by a 50. If I got hit by a 50 cal in the mid breast, it probably cut me in half. Correct?
No, what happened was I actually asked my wife, who was a nurse in Vietnam, after we were married, and I was over here. I said, "Did you ever treat anyone that was hit with a 50 caliber?" She said, "Well, I saw someone. They came in with some bodies and some live people." I said, "Oh, what it looked like?" She said, "Well, he was hit in the back, but his entire thorax was empty. It just blew everything. He had muscles in his back and his back of his ribs and his spine, but everything else went straight through. Boom, just exploded. There was nothing there, the cavity. 50 calibers, ruthless. At 2,700 feet per minute, a bullet that's half an inch wide and about, oh, hang on. What am I doing?
Oh, we've lost him. Oh, no, he's back.
There's the 50 cal.
Just put that in the palm of your hand, Richard.
Oh, yeah, sure. And let me just hold it like that. There we go. That's 125 mil long. That's a tracer round, so it's got a bit of red on the tip. And I got this I was working with the PNG Defense Force flying in their war as well. That is a big bullet.
Holy wow.
So those things won't lay waste to anything.
Far out, mate. You know what? It's really great to get a perspective of what you and your colleagues and everybody else that went to Vietnam had to go through. So, mate, can you describe to me your first combat in a Huey?
Mm.
What were your emotions? How
Oh,
did you
mate.
feel? Were you like, fuck yeah, get me up there? Or were you, oh Jesus, my ass is climbing inside me? What? And I know I'm being a little bit frank here, but FTW the whole world, this is real shit.
I tell you, mate, it's in the book. My first combat assault, and that's what the name of it is. And if you read it, you would be on the absolute dead set edge of your seat. And I just loved I can't, but you got to have a look at it in the book. Okay. So,
You're not going to give us the insight? I've read the book. I've read the book, so I know. I'm just like, for the viewers
oh, you
out
just
there,
want me to tell you?
give us
Okay.
something to get these. You want to get
Okay.
people in to read your book, mate. You need to give them something that goes, oh Jesus, I need to read that book.
Well, it's there now. And okay, very quickly, I don't know what sort of time we're under, but look.
We're on no time. We've got no time limit, mate.
Oh,
We're just
good.
going to keep going until such times as you and I
Okay.
go, I've had enough of you and you've had enough of me.
Well, in that case, the first day I went out on a mission, nobody would let me touch the helicopter. Before I got there on time, they had already had the daily inspection done. Everybody was fully armed, and it was all it was fueled up, ready to go. And the new guy came on the scene, and the we were called FNGs, fucking new guys, and we were told we were the most dangerous enemy of the United States Army, FNG. We didn't understand where we were going. We couldn't speak the language. We didn't know where even to pronounce how the name of a village went. We we only had 200 hours of flight time, 230 hours of flight time. These guys had over 1,000, most of them, and so it could have been a very degrading experience with all the new guy jokes, flying around in air crews. But my guy was great, and he called me. Warrant officers were Mister. So Mr. Gay, my name is Mr. So and so, and uh, just I tell you what you do when we're told to crank. I want you to sit there, sit down, shut up, and don't touch a thing. I said, I can do that. He said, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. I want you to
Were
listen.
you what was was your adrenaline through the roof? Were
I
you
was, I was so excited. The word fear. Lee, you got to understand, people with ADD don't consider consequences. So I think that foregoes fear. But you
right?
are, and I've had people say, "Oh, you must have been very brave." No, I was fearless. I didn't even think about it. I didn't care. I just wanted to go do it. And so I'm sitting there in the seat, and then the radios start going, and then when you hear 15 Hueys start at once, it's like the end of the world. The volume is just shattering, and we're all no more than a rotor blade away from each other. So the noise is going up, and you're sitting there and you're bouncing up and down, and it sounds like this. You're talking on the thing because the blades aren't balanced, and you go, the blades don't
Oh,
track properly, and I'm going, how much is this going to cost me?
so
Anyway.
people. So and I correct me again if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that you were like bouncing off the walls, but there's people that have got a gun that you're going to fly in and drop on the ground that are like they're crap in their pants. So,
I
yeah,
didn't know. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was
you were just worried about doing your job.
just a passenger. Yeah. So when we finally got off the ground, we formed up in formation. I just sat there, and the guy said, well, would you like to fly, formation a little bit? I said, yeah, sure. So I proved to him I could fly formation. So, but he said, okay, I got it. And once he had it, then everything started clicking it would just tick for the insertion, all the barrages, all the gunships, and then we're inbound. And that's when it all started. The shit was flying everywhere. And it's just like going in. I think we're about, I don't know, Chalk 3, the third one in formation. But you can hear, Chalk 1's taking fire, 2 o'clock, 50 meters. And There goes a minigun burst. Chalk 2's taking fire. On his side of the flight. And what we do is give a heading and a distance, and that's where the gunships put it. And then boom, there goes a rocket. And then everybody's screaming they're taking fire. I'm just sitting there looking around, and then the rocket went off right outside my door because they had Doppler fuses so they could explode in the air and throw the shrapnel down because
Yep.
this was the wet season in the tropics. And that damn rocket went off just outside my rotor blade, and we flew without doors on in case we crashed. And I saw the mud splatter right up to within a meter of my door, and the
Oh, dear.
smell of cordite just went ripping into my nostrils, and I'm going, oh! And then a huge burst of minigun came down a canal right next to me, and I turned around. The water's going 15 feet high, and it just, and taking fire, taking fire, taking fire, everybody's taking fire, suppress fire. Your machine guns are going, their machine guns are going, and you're going, woohoo! Jesus Christ, you can never get
It sounds to me like you're a little bit fucking loopy, son.
You couldn't get it at Luna Park, I can tell you that. And then the next day, boom, we were out. And everybody's looking around, and the lead ship says, anybody take any hits? Negative. They might take this.
Question for you. When you're flying in that, sorry, mate, sorry to cut you off. So when you're flying in that sort of formation, that sort of scenario, did you have a close call? Did you like sit there and go, fuck me, that was close?
No. How would I know? I'll tell you a little story.
If you hear this,
the one thing I missed. Yeah, the one thing I missed was while we were riding in, and no more than 50 feet off the ground, I can barely hear the aircraft commander in my headset. He says, "Ride light." I said, "What?" He says, "Ride light." And just a second, somebody's trying to call me.
Come on, mate. You're not an amateur. I'm just pouring a drink, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Just a second. Yes. Hello.
Oh, oh. La 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 la. We'll just have a bit of background music while Richard takes a phone call.
Okay. No.
No, that's all right. We're in a podcast.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
I'm in the middle of it, hon. You're a dag.
Thank you very much. You know what a dag is in America, in Australia?
In what?
Do you know what a dag is? The terminology of a dag in Australia?
I've been here over 53 years. Yeah, it's a sheep.
So do you know what the terminology for dag in Australia is?
Yeah, well, it's a sheep's bum, that little thing that hangs around the wool.
A bit of shit on the sheep's bum, so you just called me a bit of shit on the sheep's ass. Thanks very much.
I meant it sarcastically. In America, it's called the dingleberry.
You goddamn Americans! All right, let's get back on. Let's get back on track. Let's get back on track. So I'm going to move on. So we covered that. So what was your typical role you performed in the Huey pilot? Was it a troop carrier, a medevac, gunship support, or was it something other? I know we covered on a little bit of it, but your major role that you did, not the Huey pilots, but what did you do?
Okay. The first 90 days in our unit, you had to fly slicks. The first day I got there, I wanted to get in the gun platoon, but they said, no, you cannot do that. You have to fly 90 days. And that was the best advice I ever had because I knew nothing about flying a helicopter, even though I had 230 hours in flight school. So those 90 days I was in slicks. We did medevacs. We did troop insertions. We did what we call ash and trash, flying like big, large yellow envelopes around from one place to another with no passengers. And some days, on Sundays especially, we'd fly White Robe 6. Now, 6 on the radio is commanding officer. The White Robe was God. So that's God, the commanding officer. That's the chaplain. And you fly the chaplain around from one special forces base to another. And that's when you learn how to do tactical descents. You get right over the top of the place at 3,000 feet. You roll it over on the 90-degree angle. You kick the trim out. And you just go like a tight, because you have to actually descend inside the wire of the
spinning
perimeter.
It around, spinning
down,
the whole
down like that, a spiral.
Yeah, wow.
And then just flare at the bottom and bang it on the ground because you are virtually protected geographically because you're staying inside the wire of the fire support base or the special forces base, as it were. But if you get outside that area, then if you get very far out, they can shoot at you if they're there, but they'll leave you alone because they don't want to take ground fire from the special forces guys who are in their bunkers looking out. So you do the tactical approach, and then you do the tactical takeoff, which is the same thing in an upward spiral to 3,000 feet. And then you take up another heading and you go to the next one. The poor preacher, I swear, it's a wonder he didn't fill up a gas bucket. I mean, the way we did these maneuvers was crazy.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I think they were used to it, but that was Sunday. And then you're right back on the next day, you're in doing combat assaults again, or you did not fly guns, but you did everything else. And then
And that was on the job training, yeah?
what's that?
On the job. So you're in Vietnam and you're doing all that sort of stuff.
That's exactly what it was, actually. And that's in the book too. There's a really good story there of the kind
No
of
training for this, for what's happening here. This is, we'll give
Yeah, your feed dropped out. I think you satellite must have gone somewhere. There you go. You're back.
I'm back. I guess when you're flying that sort of training stuff on the daily basis, and I know you said you spiral around and then land. If you had to come in like smash down on the ground, how many G's? How fast and how many G's are you pulling when you smash it into the ground, hit, and then bang straight back up?
Well, you wouldn't smash it anyway. We had to treat them
Okay.
with respect. So you can do a rapid descent, and usually that was done as an approach to the ground, so that you might want to get in and not kick up a lot of dust. So you just bottom the collective. You fall virtually right in, and then you time it like an auto rotation or engine off landing. Just as you're going to touch the ground, boom, you just kiss the ground with it. But it's a lot of that momentum is stopped, and
Yeah.
and you're not hovering around kicking up acres of dust. So there were lots of different approaches, and it wasn't just training we were getting. It was OJT. It was experience we were getting, and the whole time, and it's in the book so many different times, that aircraft commander made you do the flying all the time, and the only time he would touch it is if you stuffed up. If he touched the controls, you got a lecture later on, and you would be given another chance, or you might just get yourself into trouble and wind up in supply, because it's called airmanship. If you didn't have the airmanship necessary to make the right decision, to fly the machine as it should be flown, to do the right things at that very moment, they didn't want you in the platoon as a pilot. So there were places you could be sent.
I guess I can understand that, because that's that trust, yeah. That's
Oh
that.
yeah, you
That
had to
is
look
that
after.
100% trust that I know that when he has that stick in his hand, he has my life in his hand, and he's going to do whatever he can do to get me from A to B, and then get me from B to C.
Yep. That's exactly the way it went. And again, it's in the book. There's so many different ways that, oh gosh, inserting troops through a hover hold where the infantry would cut down enough trees in the jungle to actually get the helicopter down low enough for them to get in and then back straight up again.
So, sorry, Richard, I'm going to cut you off one second, mate. I've got a question here from John.
Oh, good.
Okay, so if you lost engine, can you bring it down under control, or do they just drop out of the sky?
Okay. Before I answer that question, I'll qualify myself. I was a military Huey instructor pilot for exactly that maneuver. We did everything. I was an instrument instructor pilot, and then later on I became a contact or visual instructor pilot.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you lose the engine in a helicopter, and it happened to me in civilian life as well, let's just go through a quick exercise. I'll put you in a training scenario. You're lined up on the center line of the runway. You're at 1,200 feet altitude, and you're going to execute a practice auto rotation. So you line up and you pick your spot where you think you're going to land, and the one you want to land at, especially on a runway. And then you lower the pitch and you roll the throttle back to flight idle. So the engine gets it's not giving any power to the rotor system. So what happens? The blades that have pitch go flat. When they go flat and the air comes up through the rotor blades, it continues to turn at flight RPM. So you've got a green arc on your tachometer. You've got your rotors in the green. You look at the trim and you maintain altitude. So I'd say rotor in the green, we're in trim 60 knots. Rotor in the green, we're in trim 60 knots. You're going down on glide ratio of about, in a Huey, it would be about 6 to 1, 6 feet forward to 1 foot down. So you do have a glide pattern. You don't just fall like a brick. And then you continue to fly. Then when you are within 50 feet of the ground, you bring the nose up like that. I should have had a chopper here. Bring the nose up, and then you pull collective pitch to slow you down, slow you down, slow you down, and stop, and then level, and then you still have enough collective left to go straight down and kiss the ground. I figured out I had done as a trainer 3,300 engine off landings in a Huey, teaching other guys how to do exactly that. That answers the question.
Wow. I mean, I just think because we all, and I'm sure, just in my mindset, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out here listening this evening that would think that when you lost rotor, that's it. You just a
Yeah.
helicopter falls out of the sky. But that's a great insight to, I guess, a helicopter pilot and what they would do under an emergency situation. So, and I guess, and correct me, but I'm sure you had a thousand emergency situations while flying tours in Vietnam.
Oh no, not really. No.
Oh, good. Well, that's a good thing.
The machines were very, very well. They were looked after beautifully, like your favorite horse, and they ran beautifully. The only time you really got into bad trouble and lost your engine was when a bullet went through the turbine engine because they're terribly sensitive. But there's a lot of other stuff they were never taught what to shoot at, so they just hosed the Huey. I had a roommate come back on my second tour, come back from flying the Nighthawk, and they turned the light on, and they were at about 300 feet, and they reckon at least 500 NVA shooting at them. So they had a minigun next to the light, and they just ripped through them with the minigun and turned the light off. Came back. My roommate was coming in while I was going out to go to work in the daytime. He was coming in from his night shift, and he was as white as a sheet. I said, "What happened, mate?" He said, "Oh, shit. We reckon we killed 300 or 400 of them last night, but I just finished counting 286 holes in my Huey, and nobody
Holy
got hit.
shit!
Nobody got hit.
Wow.
The tail rotor drive shaft was shredded. The blades were just almost gone, and it
That's
flew them
better
off.
luck than better. That's better luck than better judgment. Yeah.
Oh, you can say that again.
So,
Nobody
so
got.
Al's just asked questions. Backed on the last question he asked, and you answered that perfectly. But and that works. So the way you would land that helicopter with no motor, that works for all choppers. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, fixed wing just slow down until they can't fly anymore, and they just drop them in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, mate. Look, I'm going to keep moving on. So, what what made a Huey such a vital asset in the Vietnam War as an aircraft?
Sure. It was the only machine we had for logistical purposes that could go anywhere and land almost literally anywhere. It was versatile. It was very powerful. You could carry a deliverable load, something that justified it being there, up to 10 troops, or you could put in 20 cases of ammunition, or you could put in enough to feed a platoon in rations. It really was a workhorse. You could call it the Vietnam workhorse, but that's why that was the Huey that was selected and created and manufactured. We could do anything with the Huey. That was it. Whatever anyone. I stood a tower up for a guy one day. I just tied it on, dragged the tower up in the air, and dropped it down where he wanted it. I mean, it could do anything.
It's incredible, and I guess just blows my mind a little bit to just think that how calm, and I know this is a long time ago for yourself, but how calm you are and how astute you are at explaining your time over there. And I'm touching on something a little bit sad, but I'm sure that you lost a lot of good friends over in Vietnam as well. And if you wanted to talk about it, I'm more than happy to hear about some of that sort of stuff, Richard, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Look, I didn't lose a lot, and I think I owe that. I think to the professionalism of the unit that I was in. but those that I lost were very good friends. And all I can say is nobody deserves to die when you're 20, at 19 or 20. My roommate was 18, for Christ's sake. The guy that all the all the pictures in my book were taken by him, and he was an 18-year-old warrant officer who went home and he couldn't drive a car and he couldn't have a drink. He wasn't old enough.
Wow.
Anyway, and look, yes, the best way I can put it, and it could be a bit blunt in answer to your question, is that it was in the
As
job.
blunt as you like, mate. As
It
blunt
was
as you like.
it was in the job description. You knew, and you can see it in all those World War II movies. A lot of guys didn't make friends intentionally because you never knew when someone was going to be completely blown away the next day. And
Yeah.
again, I owe it to being ADD, which to me was the greatest asset I ever had without knowing it. I just let go. If I saw a guy I liked, and we clicked and we'd sit there and tell jokes at the bar, and get drunk together or whatever. Um, but I was lucky enough that in the book, you'll see I lost two friends
Yeah.
one was killed by something I was looking for twice before, and he found it and it killed him, anti-aircraft gun. And the other was a young guy who got a telegram the day before he was killed saying his daughter was born. And he was killed the next day with an RPG
It's,
straight through the windscreen.
you know what, man? It brings a tear to my eye that like we all. I'm going to diverse a little bit here. That we all piss and moan about something that somebody at work's giving me a hard time. Oh, far out. I really hate that person, but you know what I mean? Like just listening to the story so far with yourself and some of the things, and I know you're playing. I'm not sorry, I don't know that you are, but I'm just guessing that you're playing it up or down a little bit. But it's amazing to hear your story, and it's great that we need to get this story out to everybody so they understand that everything in the world isn't so bad. Hey guys, like there's people who went to Vietnam and come back there in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. You get up every morning and go, oh shit, I got to go to work. Well, fuck, I hate it. But you know what I mean? Somebody can't wipe, somebody can't wipe their ass each day, but you're going to worry and whinge about, oh, somebody took my parking spot. Holy shit, John Harrison just came back to me and said, what is the weight? What is the whole weight that the helicopter can carry?
What is the weight?
Yeah. So if you were your
Oh, I
helicopter,
see.
how much weight can you put
Oh, no.
inside?
Yeah. I think, let's see, a Huey 1,200 kilos is max weight for H model carried internally. Yeah. 1,200 kilos, 1.2 tons. That's why they were so versatile.
Yeah. Okay. That's I'm just sorry, mate. Excuse me. I'm just reading another message from John. Why we have what we have because of these vets. John, thank you very much, mate. And you're right. We have what we have because of these vets, whether they be Australian, whether they be American, whether they be somebody else. And again, I'm going to say thank you for your service, sir.
Well,
And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to move on to the next question. So, what in your mind was the most memorable, I guess, mission? Let's go mission. What was the most memorable mission or flight that you did on your tour or tours in Vietnam?
I think if I really stop and think about it, and I just finished writing this in my second book, it was a day that we were coming back empty one afternoon from south of Saigon. And just when we were parallel, all aircraft, every single aircraft, fixed wing and rotary, were tuned in at 243.0 on the UHF radio, which was called guard. Now, and it's already preset, I just click, there's guard. And everything I say in guard goes to every aircraft within 200 miles. So that's what when we got shut down, that's where we were. Click guard, mayday, mayday, mayday. We're going in, so and so. Anyway, this voice comes up and says, any aircraft, any station, 10 miles east of Saigon, vicinity grid square so and so. We need help. Please respond. And I was empty, and my crew were there. Said, "Okay, guys, let's buckle up." I said, Spartan 37 is located such and such, and they said, "Look, we've got 6 guys that are surviving right now. They're under heavy fire. They're the only ones left out of a section, which is half of 12 people. And can you go get them?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I thought, fuck. And that didn't sit
I
well.
can't believe you're laughing about this. I can't. Go on, mate. Sorry, mate.
So the next thing he says, "Okay, these are the coordinates." And I look at the coordinates on the map. Copilot writes it down, and I thought, Jesus, that's only 5 miles over there. That's less than a 5-minute flight, So I thought, stuff that. I got on guard. I said, "Any gunships vicinity of such and such coordinates. Any gunships, respond, please." And I, luckily enough, I scored 2. Oh, actually, it was a fire team, rockets and miniguns. I think it was Hornets. Anyway, I said, "Look, I've got." They were listening already. They knew what was going on. I said, "I've got the situation. Can you guys come and look after me?" He said, "Yeah, sure, no problem at all." So we stayed back about 4 or 5 miles in the air. You could see very clearly they were in a really large flat area with a green, thank God, a green rice paddy. And that was everything else was pretty brown because there was a little creek going through. So we worked out where the good guys were. We worked out where they told us on the radio where the bad guys were. I said, "Okay, you guys, you all set up?" And they said, "Yeah, Roger." I said to the infantry, "Okay, I'll be approaching from the south, and we're going to put the guns down on either side of me as well on the way in, and pop smoke." So the minute they popped smoke, they gave their entire position away.
Yeah.
But they popped smoke, so I'd know where they were. So you made your approach to the smoke. The gunships went in, and they had already shot down 2 helicopters on the departure route. So they're sitting over there, and there's dead people everywhere. And I just went in as fast as, like you said, you go smashing in, and you flare like hell, drop it on the ground. They're getting in. The gunships are just ripping the place apart. Just the miniguns were just incredible. Anyway, and I thought, well, if they're all over there shot down, I'm going back out the way I came in. So I ran out backwards the way I had come in. And that's, I think, could have been the only thing that saved me. But I departed the way I came in. The gunships were just ripping the place apart. And I said, "Okay, you guys," on VHF, "we're clear. Thank you very much." They said, "Oh, man, we had a ball. Thank you."
So I'm guessing you had big headphones on, hey? So the noise wasn't as horrific as,
the helmet. You got your helmet on, and you talk.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
All open frequency. Once you go on to 122.4 or something like that, everybody on that frequency hears you, and it was dedicated for that mission. And that's the only time I was utterly and totally terrified. I was scared of dying. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that was scary. Wow. There were so many bad guys. It wasn't even funny.
Honestly, man, I just credit to you. I'm trying to picture, like, you watch the movies, Vietnam, like 4th of July, all that sort of shit, and then you see all the Hollywood propaganda around it.
Yeah.
And then you talk to the real deal. Talk to the real deal. This is what happened. I shit my pants when I was doing that, but I did it. You know what I mean? Like, and sorry, man, I've just got a comment from my niece, Tilly. You're doing a great job, Uncle Dave. What a special interview. It's not an interview with me. This is the special man here. This is the interview. So, thank you very much. But, this is the special person here. John Harris, another comment. Balls of steel.
That's when you.
Well done, Al. Well done, Al Harris.
I tell you what, Al, we had to have more than one bourbon that night to get the burn off the adrenaline.
I'm sure you did, sir. So let's move on. The next question is, how many of your crew managed to contest threat of enemy fire? So is that...
We always had, we had a crew of 4 in the machine. The 2 were pilot, co-pilot, and then you had a door gunner on the left side of the machine, and the crew chief on the other side. On the no, sorry, door gunner was right, crew chief left. They both
Which were
had.
you? Sorry, Rich. Where did you sit in the front, left or right?
Well, when I was a co-pilot, and as in training, like that first
Okay.
day, I'm in the right seat. The Army
Okay.
does it ass about for civilian life, and the aircraft commander sits in the left seat. But
Okay.
we had two M60s, 800 rounds a minute, 800 bullets a minute, uh, for what they call a defensive weapon. I love it, a defensive
What,
weapon.
what, what, what does that mean? Just 800 rounds, just shoot at anything, mate. Is that it?
No, no, no. What you did, and when I would teach when I became an aircraft commander, and if I had somebody coming in to the platoon noon that was a door gunner that was new, I'd say, just shoot where you'd hide. Just shoot where you pick a spot and kill it. Shoot the next one, shoot the next one, shoot where you'd hide. So if he's looking for thick bushes, he's looking for tree stumps, he's looking for depressions, he's looking for canals. Just
Somewhere,
like
somewhere,
you going
somewhere
hunting,
where somebody would hide. Yeah.
just shoot what you think wherever you'd be hiding, and that worked well to teach them, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And if they
Okay.
take fire, if they see a muzzle blast, they don't stop firing until it stops firing, because you're being fired at with a very high caliber weapon.
So how did that work, especially during like an extraction and medevac and something like that?
Well, medevac ships were dedicated, and I was not in a
So that's
medevac
not
unit.
you, yeah.
No, medevac ships had the big red cross on them, and that was a perfect target for the bad guys because they had no respect for that at all. I lost a very good friend in flying medevacs. He was killed. They went in upside down. But the
Was there a rule that they couldn't shoot at a medevac? Was that sort of like an unwritten law? Correct me. Yeah, I don't know, mate. Like, hey, that's the enemy. Shoot the fucking thing down. Or
you're
did they
not
not? It's going to be great cost. Don't shoot at it.
you're not supposed to. But then look who you're dealing with. All they want to do is kill whoever's in the machine. They don't care what color it is, what
Well,
symbols.
I guess if you listen to all the propaganda where they had bungee sticks in grounds, where they had trip wires with big posts would come down, so they didn't play fair, mate. But what's fair in war? Correct.
That's
What is
it.
fair in war? All right, so
All's fair in love
let's
and
move on. What were the most challenging flight conditions you faced, like the terrain, the weather, the enemy
yeah.
activity, etc.?
Actually, that's a good question. A lot of people don't think about weather because weather had, killed people too. But thank God I had been an instrument instructor pilot on my second tour, especially because we were there for a particularly bad season, wet season. But if you got if you were working in an area that you could work in, and then you started flying home and you and you see the clouds stacking up, and you can't tactically, you can go low if you want and just toss a coin, heads or tails, and see if you make it home. But if you can, you stay over the top. And if you go over the top, and which is saying, I flew 20 years in New Guinea, so if you can fly over the top, that's fine. But if you don't find a crack in the cloud, you've got to be able to get down. Now, my second tour, I did it with no trouble at all because all I had, like one day, I just overflew a position and I said, "Tell me when I'm the loudest, when you can hear me." He said, "Now you're over the top of me." I said, "Okay, fine." I punched the clock. I flew a heading straight out for 2 minutes, and then I just turned right 90 degrees, turned left 180, and came in down, went into cloud, kept it going. He told me that the clouds were about 200, 300 feet off the ground. So I just kept going IFR. I follow, instrument flight rules. And pop, there was out a cloud. Pop, there he was. I put it right on the pad. So, but a lot of people can't do that. They weren't trained for that. And you get lost in a cloud, statistically, you'll last roughly 40 seconds before you're upside down.
Is that a feel? Is that a feeling?
Oh, yeah, you can get
Gut feeling
vertigo.
sort of thing, Richard?
Vertigo grabs your ass. Don't you worry, mate. Oh my God, yeah.
I'd rather my wife grab my ass.
The thing is, you think you're like it's straight and level, but that could feel straight and level. That can feel straight and level because it's all 1G maneuver. It's only times your body weight. So even if I was drinking a glass of water and I'm going like that, I'm still drinking it when I come back around back to flat.
Yeah,
I'm
gotcha.
drop. it's down. So yeah, but
Gravity,
not.
gravity's your worst enemy, isn't it?
Sorry.
Gravity is your worst enemy.
Well, yeah, but also, yeah, well, it was. But the point was weather could be very bad, but we were also very aware. And there's one of the stories in this book here, my first book, of us having to actually get into a firefight with cloud no more than 20 feet off the trees. So we were down with them the whole time it was going on. It was pretty much 50-50 as to who came out on top. So it did happen with weather. Yeah, you had to be aware of it.
Yeah, well, it's amazing that we all think we know something, but we don't really know. You know, when you see helicopter, there was a helicopter pilot, sorry, an accident in Queensland. Oh, two helicopters. You don't really know until you talk to somebody like yourself who gives us a little bit better understanding on how a helicopter maneuvers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I've got another question for you now. So
Okay.
how did flying in Vietnam affect you personally, and both during the war and post-war when you came home?
That's a very powerful question. And all I can say, again, and it's also mentioned in the book, every day we lost a crew member, I wasn't flying because we were allowed to fly 140 hours in a 30-day period. But once you reached that level, you were given a day off. And as luck would have it, each time somebody was shot down, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I even flew door gunner on not multiple, but several occasions.
Well, you had
Sitting,
the gun in your
yeah, yeah,
hands.
that was me in the back. Yeah, sitting back
Yeah,
there. There's
Matt.
some great footage, yeah, of that stuff on YouTube. And we never saw anybody all day, but I shot Nipopom. Every time we'd roll in, I just spray the tracers back and forth in the area that I saw the door gunners spray it back and forth. I didn't see anybody. I didn't shoot anybody. I was a very boring soldier, I suppose. I was there. I did get shot up. The aircraft got shot up, but none of us ever got hit. So my second tour, yeah, people got shot, but not me. So, and not in my aircraft. So we had
So
some
how
very
did that affect? So during wartime, okay, let's just focus on wartime right now. How did wartime affect you mentally?
yes,
Okay, and not
yes.
physically, but mentally. How did that affect?
Look,
Like every
that's a
day
great.
getting up, going, "Fuck, do I have to deal with this shit again?" Or, "Well, I can't wait to do this shit again."
That is a great question, and some of my friends were haunted until the day they died by what they had to live through, by what they saw, by what they did. I've got a very good friend. He was my roommate my first tour, and then he halfway through our tours he was transferred to another unit where he had to fly scouts low and slow, and he had a minigun on his ship. And he said he killed so many people he can't remember, and he is completely
Fried,
haunted, haunted,
yeah,
haunted.
haunted. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but he's had a lot of psychiatric help through the Veterans Administration in the states. He's been helped out a lot. So he's come back. He's come out of to the other end of the tunnel, and he's really fit and well. But the suicide rate from Vietnam was horrendous, just horrendous, with guys having to live with what they did. I read a book, and I don't think it's probably not published anymore. It's called Ashes of Vietnam, and it was some of the most blood curdling true stories that you could ever read about what guys did. And because you get warped, it's it's in the book again, my first book.
Yeah.
It's you what you do mentally is in order to justify killing another species or the same species, you have to mentally get that species below you. The Vietnamese called us white monkeys, and we had names for them, lots of names that we
Keep it
take
clean.
slopes and this and that and that.
Yeah.
But the point is, for me to if I had to draw my
Weapon.
bead on a group of guys and just open up, I would have to believe they were a lesser being than me to kill him because I was out to kill him and I was looking for him. I wanted to kill him. I looked for everywhere. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find anybody. But that
So,
was
so,
just
so was
me
that
being lucky. That's why I can talk to you.
so was that? And I'm going to go backwards, kind of like one or two steps. Was that kind of? And I understand why. So with this mentality of kill or be killed, was that trained into you from boot camp
Yes.
to pre deployment to deployment to every day in deployment? Hey, if you're not on your shit, you're not coming back.
Yep. Yep. Right. I've got it right in the book. And the chapter is called The Spirit of the Bayonet because I pondered
What chapter? What
how.
chapter?
Okay. Here we are. Just a second. Coming up. Just after the preface, meet your author. There's my dad. Basic training. It's in the basic training thing. I'll give you I'll get a page number here, and I'll show you. I'll read it if I can. Yeah, page 21. If you've got got the book there.
I have as a matter of
There you
fact,
are.
I have the book here.
Yep.
So I'm actually gonna talk to everybody out here a little bit after. So page 21. If you can, I'm going to stop what we're doing for a moment, Richard. I really want people looking and listening to this podcast to really take in what's happening in this book here. Okay, I can't emphasize it enough. It's on multiple platforms, and you really get a really good, sorry, not a good, a real insight into everyday life in that moment in our existence. So going back to that question, Richard, that was how did it affect you there? What about post-war? So you come what time? How old were you when you came back from deployment?
I was 20. I turned 20 when I was over there. My roommate turned 19 just before he went home.
So when you came home, you were 20.
Yep.
So at the age of 20, and broad-shouldered, big-chested, went over there. America, make America great. And when you came home, I know we can laugh about it now, but when you came home, how did the world receive Richard Gay when you came home
Oh
because
God.
you were fought in the Vietnam War?
Oh God. That still cracks me up. Um, when we traveled home, they made us wear our complete uniform with whatever those fruit salads on the guy's chest. That every one of those ribbons is a medal, and so we had to wear that. And so we stuck out like the proverbial, going from one terminal to another. And just when I was almost home. I was at New Orleans International, hopping a plane to Gulfport, which was only about 12-minute, 15-minute ride. And this girl comes up to me and stops me right in the middle of all this busy terminal, people whizzing around you, you know. And she said, "Oh, have you just come back from Vietnam?" I said, "Yes, yes." And I said, "And I'm still in one piece." And she's looking right up in my face, no more than that far. Baby killer. And turned around and walked off.
Wow.
That shattered me. I still get upset.
Yeah, man. Hey, you make me, brother. You make me upset too, mate. Because you know what, you did what you did to keep the people in America safe. You know what I mean? From communism and a whole other things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you get us all a little bit teary. You got me a little bit teary. I know you're a little bit teary, and I'm sure that there's a whole heap of people watching this right now that are a little bit teary because
Well,
you
you did
know,
the same thing over here.
100%, 100%. You know,
100%.
there's Iran, there's Iraq, there's the Falkland Wars, there's.
No,
You know what I mean?
but Australian troops had to leave. They came over on a ship, most of them, and they had to leave at night in civilian clothes so they could get home without being abused. That's the truth.
Is and look, we won't I won't
That's
go
it.
too much
I
into that
just
because
wanted
I
to know it
don't.
went both ways. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, I won't go too much into that. So I'm gonna diverse it as a little bit now and go. What was, and I'm going to go right back to the start now. So, what was your family influence? I know your father's very high up in the military. He's Richard Nixon's best mate. So,
He's a brigadier general. Yeah. Yeah.
so give us a little bit insight into your dad and how his fathership and your parenthood, how that led you to where you are today, please.
Well, okay. To clarify one thing, I was brought up by my stepdad, whose name was Neil Nielsen. My biological father was finished up as Brigadier General George R. Gay, and he did have an influence on me, even though I didn't live with him. I came to know him rather well before he passed away. Um, but as far as the way I grew up with Nielsen, as we called him, he was very firm, good sense of humor, but he was very fair. He was a real outdoorsman. I really liked that. But by God, if you stuffed up, you suffered. Now, you usually that was through the with me as I when I passed 12 years old. Anyway, getting the belt.
We all
That
got
was
that.
restricted. Restricted. You're restricted. You can't go anywhere for 2 weeks. Or something like that. That started in the fifth grade. But yeah, no, you get the belt out. Yeah, if I did something wrong when I was a kid, he set limits. Let's just put it like that, and he did it rather soundly.
Yeah,
But
I've got to
he
say that.
disciplined. He was a
I've got to say
disciplinarian.
that look, to everybody's listening, I know Richard personally, so um, all of the stuff he's talking about has molded him into the person that he is today, and I'm very honoured to say that Richard is a friend of mine. So yeah,
Thank you. As
no,
I
it's a pleasure, Richard. So look, I'm Richard. Have you got anything else you'd like to talk about tonight, mate, in regards to your book or your upcoming book or anything else, mate?
okay.
Because I'm finished with my questions, so we can do a little bit of ad hoc stuff right now, if you like.
Oh, thanks. All right, everybody, get your pens out. You can see the name is Vietnam War Horse, and then it's a colon, a Huey Pilot's Memoirs. That's the full title you have to look for. It's on Amazon. It's and it's on Audible just about everywhere. For the book, the audio book. But Amazon has the hardback, the softback, the audiobook, and the Kindle download, which is, of course, the cheapest way to get the book. And I encourage that. That's good. I've managed to sell around 3,700 copies since September. It's been a number one seller, Amazon number one bestseller for over 6.5 months. That's how I managed to get those.
Fantastic,
Yeah, it's a
fantastic.
it struck a chord with the public because really, I think I'm probably the first guy that I've ever read. I've never read a book where the guy that's writing the book says I was writing it through my tears, these stories, some of them. And I said, dear reader, I'm writing this through my tears because. So I would actually reach out and talk to you the way I felt, describe how I felt, why I felt like that, and then step back into the story again. And it seems to have caught on, and that's how I think the sales have been so wonderful. But it's like I'm talking to you now. I consider what I'm going to say. I don't treat you like you're anything other than a goddamn genius in my book, and that's how I talk to you. But I'm honest. Every word is true. Every emotion is described. Like when I flew a guy that got caught in a fuel vapor explosion, which no smoking within 20 meters. Well, he did that, and a horrendous explosion. And I wound up. I got him, my crew chief, to put him in my ship, and we flew him to a hospital. But you don't just read it. I want you to experience it. I want you to feel it. And I think, Dave, you could back me up on that, having read the book. That yeah, and I loved writing it, and I've loved writing my second one, but that's coming up as volume 2. There's more on that later, but Amazon and any of the audiobook carriers, except for one thing, Audible, which is owned by Amazon, has an AI voice. Now that's fine. The story still gets told, but my voice is on the other 32 outlets. So it's only Amazon that has an AI voice. Spotify, Apple, all the big ones, they've all got me. I read it myself. You'll hear me. I know how to. I knew how to make the inflections, etc. So there you are.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Dave.
Look. I got to say, look, I feel honoured and privileged, Richard. That number one, that you're being my number one, my first podcast. So I greatly appreciate you coming on board to Sket Alive to help me promote my platform and to help promote your book. That said, I feel also a little bit privileged that I was privy to information of your book before it was published, and you're going to make me cry, mate. Hey, because I sat in Cairns and listened to you talk about what you did, and it affected all of us in that room that night. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. Thank you, sir, for your service, mate. I really mean that, and that goes out to everybody that served in any type of conflict or military service. Thank you for your service.
Good on you, mate. And thank you.
Richard Gay. Richard Gay, it's been a pleasure to have you on Sket Alive. Thank you very much for being my first podcast. We're gonna close it out here, mate. Unless you've got anything else, Richard.
I'm honored. Thank you very much for thinking of me, Scott. I appreciate it,
mate.
No
so
worries.
Everybody out there in Facebook land, YouTube, everywhere else on all the other platforms. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We'll be back shortly. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. Love you all. Good night.
Good night, mate. Cheers.
Bye-bye, mate.